and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah, and today I think it is time for another scavenger hunt. So I wanted to change things up a little bit, so I wrote down all of the prompts from Books and Lala, as well as some from Ellen Catherine. I starred the one that I need to start with, and I thought that to kind of change things up a little bit, I am going to be choosing 5 prompts out of here, not including this one, to find my book. And hopefully this works, because I haven't tried it yet, so we'll see. So the first prompt is to grab your favorite book, go to the acknowledgements, and the first name you see, find a book by an author with the same name. So I'm going to go with an easier one. And we're going to go with The Huntress by Kate Quinn. This is one of my favorites that I've ever read from her. And okay, there's no acknowledgements in this, so never mind. Let's try The Taster. Is there acknowledgements in this one? No, there is not. Let's try Shutter Island. This is already off to a great start, right? Oh, wait. Okay, acknowledgements. At the beginning of the book, there is acknowledgements in Shutter Island. So the first name I see to find a book by an author with the same name. Okay, so the first one I see is Robert. So I have actually the very first book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. No, I have not read it. When I bought this book, I thought it sounded super duper interesting, and then I found out how long of a series it was and completely got freaked out by it. So I have this one. So let's choose our first actual prompt, starting with that book. So the first one that we have is find another title with the same number of letters. So 3, 4, 5, oh wait, no, the Eye of the World technically. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 is our number. Let's see what I can find out here to try and not have to go in the other room. Okay, so 16, we have The Bone Labyrinth by James Rollins. James Rollins is supposed to be a thriller author, but I also have up here, I have The Starless Crown and Cradle of Ice. My husband read Starless Crown, but I have not read either one of these yet. But that's his like foray into fantasy. But I do have one of his thrillers that I have not read yet. But let's go with that one. So prompt number 2. Okay. Let's go with this one. So flip open to any page. The first name you see, find a book by an author who shares that name. Okay. Thank God I grabbed a thriller and not a fantasy. Okay, first name I see. Gray. I don't know any authors with the name Gray, but the one that came to mind was like Picture of Dorian Gray. Okay, let's try this again. Roland. That doesn't ring any bells. Maria. I don't think I have any Marias either. Lena or Lena. I don't have anything like that. Benedict Kowalski. David Kowalski. Chang. Oh. The Phoenix Crown is... Okay, so the name that I found was Chang, and I have The Phoenix Crown by Kate Quinn and Janie Chang. I still have to read this one too. So this is prompt number 3. So then let's go with this one. Flip to a random page, point at a word, and find that word in a book title. These ones are always the hardest ones. Okay, random word. Get. I'm trying to think of my romance books. Nothing comes to mind, so let me try this again. Over. I don't know if I have any like that either. Okay, let's try this again. Laughing. Yeah, right. Lady. I'm not gonna do lady. I always get lady. Cry. I don't think that'll work either. Second. Oh. I think I had this one before. Right here, I have The Second Side of Zachary Cloudsley. This is one that I found on Book Outlet, and it's so interesting. It's kind of a historical fantasy, and I want to read it so bad. Go to page 50, line 5, pick a word from that line, and find a title with that word. Oh, this is so course. Page 50, line 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Desk. In place of hands are steel bones, and where there should be. In place of hands are steel bones, and where there should be. Okay, so the line was, desk, in place of hands are steel bones, and where there should be. And I chose to go with bone because I have The Witches of Bone Hill. And so that's that one. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is our last one. So let's hopefully have a good one. Let's go with this one. Okay, that doesn't work because it's a book that I would recommend that's similar. Would be one that I've already read. Okay, let's try again. Take the most common letters seen in the title and find an author whose name that starts with that letter. So T, we have 2 of those. H, we have 3. E, we have 3. So I think it's gonna be E. So it starts with an E. Ernest Cline, Ready Player 2. I have read Ready Player 1 years ago, and I loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. So we're gonna go with Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This is one that my husband's been asking me for years if I'm ever gonna read book 2. And so here we are. So I'm gonna read Ready Player 2, and hopefully I like it. He said it's not as good as the first one, so we'll see. But it's been a long time since I read anything from this author, and so I'm excited. I'm very excited. So this is what I am going to read. Okay, like that. Okay. So we started out with a 5-star book from me, and that was Shutter Island. Went to the acknowledgement. So the first name I seen was Robert, so we went with Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World. Finding a book with the same number of letters in the title, and we got The Bone Labyrinth by James Rollins. Picking a random name and finding an author with that name, we have The Phoenix Crown for Janie Chang. The pointing to a random word, we got Second, so I got Second Sight of Zachary Cloudsley by Sean Lusk. A book with Bone in the title for page 50, line 5. We got The Witches of Bone Hill, which is the only one out of the stack that I've read, other than Shutter Island. And from that one, we got the most common letter, finding an author that has that letter. Their name starts with that letter, and that gave us Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. It was an interesting way to do it. Let me know if you like this way of doing it. It kind of shortens things up, makes it a little bit easier, and that way I can get to reading. So I will start this book, and I will come back to you when I have my first initial thoughts on Ready Player 2. Okay guys, so I needed to come on and update you because I've been reading Ready Player 2, and I am up to 110 pages. So I'm about a third of the way through the book. And I'm finally getting invested in it, like more interested, because the beginning of this book is all about what happens within the next like 3 years after Parzival Wade Watts wins Halliday's contest. So if you haven't read the first book, Ready Player 1 is all about how there is a virtual reality called the Oasis that was created by a man named James Halliday. And he set up, after he passed away, he had set up a game that was looking for these 3 keys, these 3 gates, and using like Easter eggs from his life that basically would end up passing on his inheritance of his money and the Oasis and everything else to whoever found those 3 keys. And the first book is all about Wade Watts and his friends' search for those keys. This book is what comes next. So like the first 3 years or so after Wade wins the contest and inherits the Oasis, they find a new technology that is more immersive. It's called an ONI, and it basically is like a headset that hooks up to your head and your brain that makes going into the Oasis even more immersive because it makes it to where you can feel, see, taste everything. So it's a lot more interactive, and it connects to your brain, so that way you're actually able to taste things or smell things or feel things versus the simulation of it with the normal suit. So they have the O&Is and have decided that they wanted to release it into the world. Now it's like a huge hit and they're making more money, and it's just this even more interactive form of going into the Oasis, into this virtual reality. But Halliday set up another quest for them that's finding the 7 shards of the siren, I believe is what they're called. I think that's what it is, like the seven shards. And he has to find them, but it's also broadcasted to where like everybody knows about it, so everybody can look for them. And so it's basically going on another quest. And he has no idea where to start, other than the fact that he believes that it has to do with Kira, who was Halliday's first love and Halliday's best friend, Ogden Morrow's wife. And so he's kind of burned his bridges with Samantha at this point because she did not agree with the O&I. H and Shoto he's still kind of close with, but they've all gotten like estranged from each other over the course of this amount of time. So he's very alone in all of this. And I don't know why I'm still holding this up because you can't see the cover. But anyways, so he's gotten very, very isolated. He's in his own little bubble with living in Halliday's mansion and going to the O&I and into the Oasis through the O&I and whatnot. So the beginning of this book is very, very, very slow. I did not like the beginning of this book at all. If you've read the first book, there is a portion of the first book where Wade Watts basically isolates himself in an apartment and just is depressed and complains for chapters of the book. And that's basically how the beginning of this book is. This book is like the worst part of that book for the first like 80 pages. And then you hit that 80-page mark, and that's where he first kind of gets his first tip into these shards. He goes into the Oasis, and he gets his first kind of breakthrough in finding the shards. So at this point, things are going to hopefully start to pick up and get better. He met this girl in the Oasis named Longren, something like that, and she's kind of become his new friend, basically, like a new connection, a younger version of him and his friends, kind of a thing, that has found information that will help him hopefully with the shards. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. I like the way that this is written. I really do. I like all the little things that Ernest Cline, includes, all the movie references, music references, video game references, all that stuff. I absolutely love all that. That's what I absolutely loved with the first book. And he's including that in this one. But like I said, the first 80 pages of this book, I hated it. I hated it so much. I did not want to keep reading. But I've toughed it out. And I am now up to chapter 8. I'm 110 pages in, and I am enjoying it now. So hopefully that continues. My husband says it doesn't get a lot better, but hopefully I'll be the judge of that, and it will, with him going on another quest. Because honestly, Wade Watts is not an interesting character. He's not a good character. He's not likable. He's kind of like just a 12-year-old girl who is just complaining about her life kind of thing. That's how he feels. So he's really, really annoying. And I don't actually like his character. However, the entire appeal of the first book is the quest. And now we're getting into that. So I'm going to keep reading this, and I will update you once I get to a little bit further. I'll try and go to like, I don't know, 220 pages to where I'm like 2/3 of the way through and give you another update. But for right now, I am starting to like this, and hopefully that continues. And I don't know, I guess we'll see. But I wanted to come on and update you, so I will check back in with you later on. Hey guys, so I needed to come on here and update you. I am up to chapter 20, page 240 in Ready Player 2, so I am about 2/3 of the way through. And so far, it's good, but it's not as good as the first one. So at this point, they found a few of the shards, and the high five, which is Artemis and Shoto and H and Wade Parzival, are meeting up now with the low five, which Parzival found that are just like huge fans of what him and his friends did and their own group of friends. So now they're meeting up with them. They've found multiple shards by now, and I feel like some of the quests to find the shards are way more elaborate, like the one for, what is it, Sherman, Illinois. That one is like a really long, elaborate quest, whereas the one right after that is short and sweet. It's, they go in, they find it, they get out. And I feel like it was almost rushed because of that. And maybe it isn't rushed, but it's just, it feels like he spent so much time with all of the 80s movie references and stuff in that portion of the book for the Sherman, Illinois part with Pretty in Pink, but he didn't spend a lot of time with the references for like the children's shows. He references Blue's Clues, he references Reading Rainbow, Sesame Street, Dora the Explorer, and I don't remember what other ones, but he referenced a handful of those. And I think that's really fun because I love remembering all the old cartoons that we used to watch when I was a kid. And so I wish that he would have gone more into that in this book, because that's what I love about these. I love the old movie and show and even video game references. Like, I love all that, and that's what these books really entail. That's the fun of them. So far I am enjoying this. I'm liking it a lot better than the first third because the first third was really slow, but I am enjoying it a lot more now that I'm into it and their quest is really beginning. Things are kind of going crazy and they're having to put all the little clues together to try and figure out how to save everybody and how to fix everything, and so things are picking up. So I know that this last third hopefully will be the best out of all of it, but the second portion of this that I've read has definitely been way better. So I have about 120 or 130 pages left, and so I will be finishing up this book either today or tomorrow, and I will come back on with my final updates. I am glad to be finally reading this. It's taken me forever, and I really did not want to keep reading it when I was in the beginning, but now that things have picked up and I've gotten more into it, I am enjoying it a lot more. Still not as good as the first one, though. I will say that. The first one I absolutely loved, and this one still has the quest aspect, but it's just not the same. It's just not as good. So I am glad to be finally reading this, though, and can finally talk to my husband about it, even though he doesn't remember most of it. So I'm going to keep reading this, and I will check back in with you once I finish it and can give you my final thoughts for Ready Player 2. Hey guys, I am back, which means that I have finished Ready Player 2. I just finished it, and it was good. It wasn't as great as the first one. There were certain things in this that I didn't like. I didn't like the first like 80 pages or so in this book at all. I felt like it drug out a lot and it was really boring to start out with, but once we got into really the heart of the book more, then I really started to enjoy it a lot more. The other thing that I didn't like with this book is what happens with Halliday's character, Anorak. Okay, so if you've seen this movie, then you know about the man who plays the character of James Halliday, and I don't know his name off the top of my head. I don't know what it is, but that man plays that part so perfectly well that he's just kind of socially awkward and quiet and stuff like that. He plays it perfectly. So that's the image I get in my mind when I'm reading this, and I just cannot imagine him being this character in this form in this book. So there was a little bit of a disconnect for me there. I really liked the quest aspects. However, there were parts of it that I felt like drug on a lot. Like I mentioned before with the Pretty in Pink scenes and the Prince scenes. I felt like those were very, very long. Whereas things that was like the childhood storyline or the childhood world where like kids can access different shows and educational things, I felt like that was way too short. I felt like he could have expanded on that more and had more to it. But that was just me personally. That was my opinion. But overall, I did enjoy this, and I did give it, and I am giving this 4 stars. So it's not my favorite book. I really, really loved Ready Player One when I read this. I gave this 5 stars, and I absolutely loved it. This one I am giving 4 stars. So it was still good, but wasn't quite as good as the first book. You're very noisy, Stinker. It was very good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. And you could definitely tell that he wrote this like after the success of Ready Player One, because I felt like there's certain things that he played up more in this book because of popular opinion or whatever, like with the Pretty in Pink and Prince and stuff like that. Whereas the first book is kind of just an overall like tribute to the 80s and 90s film, music, gaming industries. So that's my take on it. Personally, like I said, I did enjoy this book. I had a good time reading it. And I'm really glad to be able to say that I finally actually read this book. I have been needing to read it for years now. We bought the first 2 books and the movie was first coming out, and I read the first one and I loved it. My husband read both of them. He said this one wasn't as good, but it was still good. And I agree with that. I think this one wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still good. So overall, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know down in the comments. If you liked the way that I found my book with the scavenger hunt this time by using my mug full of prompts instead of going through the whole list to kind of change things up a little bit, let me know that as well. I'd like to continue doing it that way, maybe make it a little bit shorter for the search itself, kind of change things up a little bit. If you've read this book and you have the same opinions I do, please let me know down in the comments, or if you thought differently, let me know. I would love to have some conversations with you about that as well. So if you enjoyed this video, once again, please like, comment, subscribe down below, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye.